Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to the Silly Books to Celebrate Black History Month. Let me set the scene for you real quick. You're a white reader, and you've just discovered that your shelves aren't that diverse. So you think, I will correct this, and you go online and you search the major publications and the blogs for black books. And what do you find? Serious books. Capital L literature about atrocities and tragedies, wars, segregation, slavery, police brutality. And they're very important books. They're very necessary books. They are books that provide discussions and spread awareness about very important topics. But they're not the kind of books you read regularly. They're not the kind of books you'd read if they were by white people, but these are the books everyone are talking about when they talk about reading diversely. So, well, you want to be a good kid, so you go read them. And then over time, people begin equating reading diversely with reading all the very serious, important books about real world trauma in their heads. And that's where this list comes in. The books I'm listing today are all by black authors, but they're sillier, maybe more lighthearted, melodramatic, odd. They have androids and aliens and Santa Claus. Books that are not exactly about those real world topics, though they might touch on them, but are just fun, because fun is for every level of melanin. And while this is not me telling you that you should avoid the capital L literature books entirely, it is me saying that if that's not what you read, then using those to read diversely is kind of setting yourself up for failure, because diversifying your shelves shouldn't be a chore. But with no further ado, what books are we talking about? Up first is an entire series, because I'm up to date on it, and that is The Prime Mating Agency by Regine Abel. This is a monster romance series following human women as they discover their alien soulmate, through the titular Prime Mating Agency. The women then travel to said alien planet and usually help solve some kind of societal issue there. Now, the stakes vary wildly in these books. Some of them are really low stakes or stakes that are solved very quickly, and they're basically just walking simulators for the planet and just a cute little rom-com. Some of them are a lot more intense. Dryads are getting trafficked and cat people are turning to piracy. And this is just a masterclass in world building. Regine Abel approaches her settings like an anthropologist. All of the planets of a dozen books now, all have very different structures to this society based on the planet's own history and the aliens' own biology and how that affects things. It's really intriguing to read. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of like the lower stakes stories, I do prefer the ones with the dryad trafficking and the cat people piracy. And it's so hard to explain how these books are interconnected, because some of them might be complete standalones. Like the first one, I Married a Lizard Man, you could skip that one and still get other plot points later on in the series. But other ones have like little connections among them. A law put to the page for the intergalactic law in I Married a Demon comes to fruition to affect characters in I Married a Catman. Like that kind of thing. You don't necessarily have to read all of them in order, but I definitely would, because there's no telling when that one book is connected to another one. But I do love these. Obviously, they're monster romances, so there are steamy scenes. They are with differing biologies, so take that as you will. But for me personally, this is my auto buy series. Like I see, there's another installment. I gotta get it. I need it immediately. Except for the novellas. I am not a novella romance girly, but there are extras. So I think there might be actually over a dozen at this point. And she's not slowing down anytime soon. So I'm excited to see where things go next. Next up is a series by Octavia E. Butler. And you might be thinking, yes, Kindred or Parable of the Sower. No. We're talking her weird alien breeding books. This is the Xenogenesis trilogy, also called Lilith Brood, all about a near downfall of humanity. Humanity nearly kills itself in a nuclear war, but a woman wakes up on an alien spaceship to discover that the Oankali aliens have saved humanity because they want to make weird babies with them. Well, I mean, they're not weird to the Oankali, but traditional Oankali breeding in their world involves one male, one female, and one third gendered kind of alien, and there's not actually any sex involved. So I would not at all consider these monster romances, but it does get even stranger because human and Oankali breeding involves 5 parents. Every construct child has the DNA of 5 different parents. It's really hard to explain outside of the book. But what I love about these is the writing style versus the actual content, because as I talk about these, they seem very sci-fi-y, very futuristic, but the writing style is folkloric. It almost feels like you're reading the legends of this people group, the Oankali constructs, like, years down the line when Oankalis and humans have been chilling out together and they have other construct kids. These are the stories they're hearing about. I love that. It should not work as well as it does, but that's Octavia E. Butler for you. I will say I think Imago, the last one, is my favorite. I loved them on audiobook because, again, it lends itself to that folkloric style. It feels like you're listening to a storyteller. I also loved that the book discusses the very realistic ways humans would react to this, because some of them are like, okay, cool, sure, and others of them are like furious and want nothing to do with the aliens, and it's not your job to try to force us into these reproductive cycles with you, which, like, yeah, valid. So I loved these so much. I think it's criminally underrated compared to Octavia E. Butler's other works. Obviously, they don't have the nuances of life and slavery like Kindred, or the damn near prophetic vision of the future like Parable of the Sower, but if you like weird sci-fi, especially weird alien sci-fi, you gotta check this one out. Up next is Dusk Mountain Blues by Destin J. Munden. This is the sci-fi western that made me realize I love sci-fi westerns. Now, does this author have a high fantasy series that is probably way better well known and sells way better than this one? Yes, but I am a sci-fi girly till I die. And this one is just so much fun. You know those old tales of like the hillbilly moonshiners going toe-to-toe with the local authorities? Okay? Imagine that the hillbilly moonshiners are mutants and the local authorities are androids. And that's what this book is. This follows a family of originally 5 mutants that bonded in the lab that created them before they escaped and came to this planet to create their own home. And now, generations later, they are the original patriarchs and matriarchs of the family. I believe there are a couple female in the original line, but it's been a couple of years since I've read this. They have been living well for a while. But now, new resources have been discovered on the planet, so new authorities are brought in, and they're tired of these redneck mutant hillbillies being up in them their hills. And it is so good. I loved it so much. Just the sheer giant action scenes and the very down-home aesthetic. At one point, there is scenes taking place in what is essentially the bayou, like very New Orleans coded. I loved it so much. And the ending, gigantic ending, huge drop right before the end. And then, of course, the author did not write the next one for years. But it's okay. He has assured me that my review copy for that one will be coming. I'm really excited. This is one of my ultimate favorites from like my first year or two of reviewing indie books. And so I'm so jazzed to see that he's finally taken off a little bit. He's finally gotten some traction online. Again, mostly for the high fantasy one, but that's fine. I'll be in the minority. I'm used to being a hipster. Just, more people should read this one too. Up next, we are getting festive because we are talking about A Man for Mrs. Claus by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This does fantastic things with Christmas lore that I love. So in this universe, Santa Claus is actually a position that reincarnated souls from Earth can come in and out of, and the stalwart in the situation is actually Mrs. Claus. At the beginning of our story, the previous Santa Claus decides that he's ready to go on to the afterlife, because this is kind of like a sort of the afterlife, but you can still decide to go a little bit beyond it to like the actual great beyond type deal. And he is going to go to be with his love from Earth. And she knew that was happening. In fact, Tiffany St. Nicholas, our Mrs. Claus, has resigned herself to just all of her marriages being business transactions for the sake of Christmas spirit. She's fine with that. Except the new Santa Claus contenders are introduced, and one of them has decided that he is going to show Tiffany that she is the reason for the season. He's not in this for business transactions. He is all about that Mrs. Claus, which, same. Regardless, I loved this book and just the things it did with the lore around Christmas and treating the North Pole as this kind of slightly afterworldly, but not entirely. Like, it was so interesting. Like, angels pop by to visit and they help with the selection process, and how Christmas spirit is kind of like connected to general morality, which does make sense, but also there's just so many fun, kitschy moments. Someone better invite me to the North Pole drag show, I swear to the gods. Regardless, really cute, really fun. There were great sex scenes. The chemistry was off the charts, and it does take place technically in July, so you can read it during any time of the year, and you should read it now. Lastly, we have That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. Did you know that cinnamon can be used to stop a demon mid-rage? At least that's what our main character, aptly named Cinnamon, discovers when she does just that. Said demon man is very grateful that she found a way to get him out of his rage, but now he's roped her into helping him on his quest. It turns out that goddess that everyone's been worshiping isn't actually a goddess and is in fact a lich that has been keeping all of the demons enspelled to be put into rages, and he wants Cinnamon's help to take her down. Cinnamon doesn't want an adventure, but she's getting one, and a lot more. The sex scenes were great. Very good chemistry. I appreciated it. This is a very fast-paced book. There's a lot happening in a very short time. In fact, I actually would prefer it if it was a little longer, but I am a longer book girly, as we've discussed before, so that's fine. Regardless, it was just so cute. Even when we were talking about freeing people from slavery, it somehow stayed cute. I'm not sure how that worked, but we did also have giant dragons and fights on boats, and it was fun. I will give it that. It was a lot of fun. I liked the tone of the writing style in that it was a weird mix of high fantasy, but also kind of modern, that kind of intertwining. A lot of characters got introduced in this book, and I believe we are going to do those characters will then get their own romance books moving forward. I don't know how much it counts as like stereotypical monster romance, because they're technically monsters and demons and stuff, but as a standard monster romance lover, their biology wasn't that different. Regardless, would highly recommend these ones if you want some more silly fantasy. And that is it. That is our list. Like I mentioned before, the serious literature books are still very important and necessary, but the best way to diversify your shelves is to go for the books that you're just naturally going to want to read. So yes, read the vegetable books that will teach you new things and help you combat some of the things in your own head, but also afterwards, have yourself some dessert. Do you have any recommendations to add to this list? I am always up for more silly, melodramatic, kitschy books, especially sci-fi. Please leave them down in the comments below. If you would like to read the written blog post version of this list, that will be the link in the description. Thank you so much, and with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.